Again, welcome to this brown bag. For any of you just joining, if you can have a chance, please write your name and your role in organization. We love to know who participates so we can get to know you better. And this is very informal. So we're gonna take probably about like 15, 20 minutes for demo. Then after that, it's a lot of time for question and answer. You can write your question anytime, or you can also unmute and ask the questions at the end when we have QA session. Again, feel free to participate. We are very grateful today. We have our own Joseph Kerski. Joseph Kerski is always have a really good presentation that everybody enjoy. So he's gonna really show us how to link between survey, web map, story map, dashboard, and all for the data collection, analysis, and communications. With that, I'm gonna return the podium to Joseph to get started.
Wonderful. Thank you, Canserina. Good to see all of your bright and shining faces out there. You know, Rena and I, we serve on the education industry team here at Esri. I think many of you know who we are, but just for those of you that don't, we are completely dedicated to helping you succeed in GIS, in instruction, research, campus facilities, and more. So please rely on us as a trusted partner. We learn a great deal from interacting with all of you on a daily basis. And we are here for you, okay? We're actually live human beings, and we're all educators. We're as enthused about GIS and spatial thinking as you are. So please, let's keep it going. Let's keep working together in these disruptive educational times. Today, we've got a big task ahead of us, and that is connecting pieces of the platform. That's what I really want you to get out of this session, folks, is here's Western Colorado behind me, by the way. This is my homeland, Mesa County, Colorado, buttes, mesas, piñons, junipers. But anyway, the idea is we're going to be looking at real landscapes, and we're going to be collecting data, and we're going to be analyzing it, and then we're going to be communicating about it. So connecting pieces of this ArcGIS web-enabled platform is super powerful for instruction and research. So that's what we want to get into here in the session today, okay? That is our noble goal. And that said, I just want to remind you that this evolution has been occurring for several years, right? GIS has always evolved, but in the last few years, I think many of you have embraced this whole idea of, yes, there are cloud-based components of GIS, and what I want to, again, do today is connect some of the pieces of this platform. We're going to be connecting these pieces inside ArcGIS Online. We're going to be using some of these apps on the right side of the screen. And remember that apps are really as you've seen in the coronavirus dashboard, and dashboard is one of the tools that we're going to use today, this has opened up GIS to the globe, right? It has gone way beyond GIS being sort of a niche technology that just a few people use in planning and science and environmental studies, et cetera. And now it's health and economics and business and data science and so much more. So this dashboard that we're going to create is, if people didn't know what a dashboard and an infographic and an interactive web map back in February, they sure do now, don't they? So it's unfortunate that it took a crisis, but the level of geo-awareness and GIS awareness is at an all-time high. So hence, using these apps to open up the power of spatial thinking to everyone is, I think, this is an opportune moment to do that. Today, we're going to be not focusing on every single one of the apps, and this is just the highlight screen. There are lots more out there, but we're going to be focused on the ones I've got in these sort of yellow boxes, story maps, dashboards, and Survey123. And we're going to do this kind of a workflow. We're going to collect some data, we're going to map it, we're going to analyze it lightly, we're going to create a dashboard, and we're going to create a story map. So again, lots to do in a short amount of time. But we're going to build this example. This example is about walkability. Our community's walkable. Why do we care about walkability? So while I'm doing this, I want you to think about some topic that you care about. Maybe it's invasive species, maybe it's water quality, maybe it's weather, or a topic that your students might want to embrace, dangerous intersections in your community, whatever it is. You can use these same approaches, workflows, and tools with your own study, okay? So this is the essay that I've got on this, and I wanted to say that because we are, as Canserina mentioned, going to be doing this in a very short time period today, there is a longer lesson that you can actually dig into that is associated with this particular blog essay of mine that's in GeoNet. If you don't know about GeoNet, it is a very nice way of interacting with GIS colleagues, and in our case, education-related discussions happen there. So I've got the lesson in the GeoNet post. Maybe Rena, if you could put that in the chat box, perhaps. This particular one, or I can do it. I've got to paste. I can paste it right here, and let's just do that.
I can help, Joseph.
Oh, you're the best. Here it is.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. And so, folks, what we're going to build is something like this. Not going to be as robust as this one, which I had obviously a little more time to do it, but we're going to build a story map, and it's got a survey inside of it. And then in the web map that appears, we're going to be able to go to different locations where people have submitted the survey. Now, this is an open survey, and so you could submit to it too. As my colleague Canserina did just a moment ago, she put a point in Long Beach that is a pedestrian-friendly point, neutral. You can see that she actually put it in on 4 August, which is today. So this is a live survey connected to a map, and it's also connected to a dashboard. So these dashboards, as the name implies, think of the dashboard in your car. It's got one screen with multiple things on it. It gives you lots of information. Similarly, the dashboards that you've been seeing on the coronavirus and others give you a lot of information in a short amount of space. In this case, it's a lot simpler than the coronavirus dashboard, but it's the same tools, the same idea. So I'm getting data on whether the place was pedestrian friendly or unfriendly, a little graph on what the characteristics are, a gauge. Right now there are 391 points on this map that you see here, on this interactive map, and then I've got a little legend and a graphic there. So a pretty straightforward graphic, all stitched together in a dashboard. And so that's what our goal is. So let's go to work. We've got 4 parts to the lesson. We're going to start with the Survey123, then move to a map, then move to a dashboard, then move to a story map. Now, just to let's look at it from like maybe a 10,000-foot view for a moment. Why do we want to do this? We don't want to do this in education just because these pieces exist in the platform, right? We want to do them if it connects to our course, our program, our university objectives. And so here, we want to collect data in the field because things need to be collected. There are issues in our communities, in our regions, in our world that we need to collect data on. We're also, by doing that, connecting students, people, attendees of our workshops and courses with issues that actually matter. And in so doing, we're developing all kinds of skills, communication skills. Do I have permission to use that photo? So permission skills, data assessment, citizen science, what is a geodatabase? What are multimedia, media fluency, all that kind of stuff, critical thinking. So there's lots of different educational advantages to doing this. And we could talk the whole session about that, but in a nutshell, that's what we're talking about. Now, since we're all about place and space, where is this location right here? Think about that. It's the 12 Apostles Rocks in Victoria, Australia, my photo. I was down there teaching. Good day. Good on you, mate. She'll be right. Okay, so that's where that is. Beautiful landscape. Creating a survey. Okay, let's do it. Survey123. Now, that's not the only survey field tool we have. We have Quick Capture, which we had a lunchtime brown bag chat about a while back. But Survey123, very easily set up, easily deployed, and easily collecting data. It's much like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, but the advantage, of course, is that you've got a map, and that yet you can analyze things spatially that you've collected. The Survey123 workflow, as the name implies, 123 is sort of, okay, ask the questions, design your form, get your answers, and then make decisions based on what you've gathered. So that is the workflow in Survey123. So if I go to survey123.arcgis.com, it looks like this, okay? And obviously you're gonna need, if you're gonna create content in this platform, you're gonna need to sign in. So in this screen, I've signed in now to my Survey123. It's my ArcGIS Online organizational subscription, okay? And I've got publisher creator role in there. Okay, so I can create a survey. So I'm going to create a survey. I'm going to create a new survey. Now, there's two ways to create a survey. You can use the connect method, which is uses Excel. You got a little bit more power, or you can use the web method. Today, since we're limited on time, we're going to use the web method, and so we're going to get started there with Survey123. Gosh, wouldn't it be great if I had some metadata, wouldn't it? So we can find our own surveys later. I oftentimes find that students kind of, without your guidance, this is where, again, your role is critical, they breeze by this, and then later on, it's very difficult for them to find their own content. So I'm going to put some metadata in here. Walkability survey for our education chat. Okay, that looks really good. Oh gosh, wouldn't it be great to have a thumbnail in here? Yes, it would. How about this little trail sign? Okay, very cool. Oh, it's too big. Oh, bummer. Okay, let's pick another one here. Oh, that's too big also. No worries. All right, so let's go ahead and create this survey. That I'd need to scale down that image a little bit to get it into the thumbnail. But the point is we're creating a survey now, and we're going to be focused on walkability. Why are communities concerned about walkability? Lots of reasons, but we're going to be focused on, let me scoot some windows around so I can get to this. Okay, so now you've got this screen where you can drag and drop things. Right now I'm going to add a multiple choice, okay? So I've got pedestrian friendly or unfriendly with a question mark. And so now, okay, choice 1, ped friendly, ped unfriendly, okay? If 90% of the things you're going to collect in the field are oak trees, you might want to have that oak tree one checked. In this case, no, I don't need to have anything checked, and I don't need choice number 3. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, that looks pretty good. Now, the next one I'm going to add is a Likert scale. Okay, so Likert scale, rate the walkability of this site. Okay. Great. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Super. And okay, I kind of like that. Disagree? I don't really want to disagree, do I? Really what I want is horrible for pedestrians and not good, neutral, good, and good for wonderful. Okay, great. And do I want that to be required? I guess so. Okay, let's go ahead and make that required. Okay, that's super. Now, the more important, I think, choice here is we're going to have this geo point, which was in the past the point at which you would collect data in. Now, the neat thing about this, let me scoot some windows aside. I'm going to save this. Some of our tools have an autosave, some of them don't. So it's important to know what tool you're in and if there's an autosave there. If it doesn't have an autosave, and more of our tools are getting there, you need to save often because, hey, it's the web and anything can happen, right, folks? Let's go ahead and add a map. Now, in the past, as I was referring to a moment ago, it's just point. But guess what? In the spring, some of you may know this, but in the spring, we then added the capability of adding lines and polygons, even to Survey123. So you can collect perimeters of wetlands, fence lines, all kinds of things. In this case, it's going to be points, so I'm going to leave it at point. But where is it? Okay. And in this case, I'm going to leave it at global because I want my survey to be a global in extent. Great. But if it's your campus, you might want to zoom into your campus and you might want to change the background base map to satellite image perhaps. Okay, well, that's great. I want to have a point collected for where this site was walkable or not walkable. Is there a sidewalk? Is there no sidewalk? Is there branches? Is there snow? Is there obstructions? Is it unsafe? Is it wonderful? All of the above. Okay, and then the last thing I want to add is an image, okay? Because I want people to be able to collect photos and put it in here, okay? So submit a photograph for the site. How about that? Okay. Great. All right. That's nice. Okay, so now I've got pedestrian friendly or unfriendly, rate the walkability, where is it, and submit a photograph. Okay, we could make it more complicated, but in the interest of time, we're going to close it off there, and you can see how easy it is to do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and preview the survey just to make sure everything looks good and that it's functional, et cetera. I could fill this out. It's not actually going to add anything to my survey unless I publish it, but I'm going to preview it right now and say, hey, you know, okay, that's good. It's a walkable place, and I can scroll to a certain place on the map and put a point in there if I want to. Okay, so I'm happy that that's working now. And I'm going to go ahead and publish this now, and I'm going to publish it, and then we have an option, as you do in all of these tools, to share it with the whole globe, in which case you'd have to tell people about it in a tweet or in an email or in a blog post or something like that, that the survey is out there and that you can add to it, or you can share it with just your organizational account, your organization, your university, your school, your government agency, or with a subset of people inside that organization. Let's say a group of colleagues, your GIS 101 students, your environmental science, you know, graduates class, whatever it is, subset. You can share it with just a group in there. Okay, and where to do that is right over here under collaborate. So I go to collaborate, and I'm going to say, oh, share this survey. I want to share it with everyone. There's my short URL, everyone. And you've got a choice here. Do you want to have the users open it in the app or just on the web? I just want to open it in a browser. I want to keep things pretty simple, but you can specify that your users could open it in the app if you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and save these settings here. And I'm not going to spend time here in the workshop today of tweaking the look and feel. There are things you can do. You can add images and change the colors, all that kind of stuff that you would expect. All right, super. And now here's my link there. I'm going to copy that link address, and that's great. Now, if I go to content and I refresh the screen here, this is the My Content area inside ArcGIS Online that probably many of you are familiar with. When you create tools, use tools to create things inside ArcGIS Online, you get folders for many of those tools, including Survey123. So notice on the left side, I've got a folder that says Survey dash Walkability Survey for Education Chat. Hey, that's my zone that I just created when I went to Survey123. So now I've got things. I've got my form in there. I've got a feature layer. I've got a couple of featured layers. More about that perhaps in another time. But the idea is you can set the viewing permissions in here. So now let's go back to our goal. What we want to do, we started with the Survey123. We used the web designer. And now we're going to create a map from that survey. That's the goal here. When we create a map, oftentimes Rena and I and some of our colleagues, perhaps you do as well, those of you that are instructors, which I know most of you are, you get your students saying, hey, I put my points or my lines on a map and here it is. And you look at them and say, great. And the point is not just to put things on a map, right? You're going to tweet this out now. Joseph said the most important thing is not to map things, right? The most important thing is to understand, right? The phenomenon, the issue, the pattern, the relationships, the trends. And so, you know, the next piece, which we're just going to touch on ever so slightly, is to use some of the analytical tools in ArcGIS Online. For example, to cluster things, to make a heat map, to make a hotspot map where areas of significant difference for north-facing versus south-facing slope, or in our case, which areas of my community are really not walkable at all, and maybe we need to address those areas. You see what I mean? So the point is not just to put stuff on a map. That's a great step, but it's not the end-all goal. Okay. Hope that was informative and maybe give you some phrases to talk about with your students. Okay, let's go back to our content. So I've got this hosted view here and feature layer hosted. Okay, so I'm going to go into that piece of the content and I can add some metadata. If I had more time, I would change the thumbnail, I would add a summary, etc. I would pay attention to this metadata. But right now, in the interest of time, I'm just going to open this in the map viewer. And so then I'm going to, as you would expect, open it up into ArcGIS Online. And so now I've got a map here. Great. But you know what? I never did add any points into my survey. So let's go ahead and do that. let's go ahead and say, you know what, I've got a survey here, and if I go to this link, right, open it in a new tab, I should be able to add things to it because I've published it, and I'm going to say, okay, it's ped friendly, it's good, it is in Evergreen, Colorado. What a great place, right? Evergreen. I mean, what's not to love? For those of you that have been there. Beautiful location, and it's right about here. There it is. Okay, and now I'm going to add an image. Okay, I'm going to select the image file, and I'm going to go ahead to a folder here, and I'm going to go to the platform, and I'm going to drill down in there, and there's my image of Evergreen. Great. It's 1.4 megabytes. I'm going to go ahead and scoot a couple of things aside, and now I've got Evergreen, Colorado, and I'm going to submit that to the survey. Now, just because your device takes 10 megabyte images doesn't mean you should necessarily have 100 or 200 points with 10 megabytes. You know, as bandwidth improves, that's less of a concern, but think about some of your students, especially now in this disruptive time, they may be at a really slow connection in their apartment or their condo or their house. So you kind of want to be a little bit mindful of the size of the images. So I'm uploading that. Also, this is a good point to talk about, hey, I've got an image that I found on the web. Can I put it in my story map and my dashboard and my survey? Well, this is a good time to have your conversation with your students about Creative Commons and permissions and, you know, using US federal agency data that's not copyrighted or your own images. That's what you want to have a conversation with them about at this point. So now if I go to it's still uploading, but if I go to my map, at some point, I'm going to be able to say, hey, I want to show just whether it's ped friendly or not, right? So I've got two choices there. And unique symbols, okay, now I don't want unique symbols. I want to be able to go ped friendly and say, okay, options, yeah, well, I don't have any data in here quite yet, so I'm going to say done there. And as soon as I'm still uploading my photo. As soon as I publish this, we're going to be able to share it, correct? So I'm going to go ahead and save this and this is where it's ever so slightly redundant with the way I do things, but I oftentimes put walkability survey for ed chat, and I say map here. I know it's a little bit redundant, but I like to look at my contents, and yes, I can see the different data types, but I like to know that that's the map that I just created from my survey. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Oh, I've already got a title with that same. So let's go ahead and add some tags here. All right, super. All right, let's go ahead and check and see if that image is uploaded. It's still uploading. So what we're going to do is we're going to be able to now create a dashboard from our map. Now, this is a workflow. There are several workflows to create a dashboard. You can go right to ArcGIS Online and go to dashboard. I'm going to go from, you know, remember the flow diagram that we were looking at earlier where we're starting with a survey, then we went to a map, and then we're going to go to a dashboard here, okay? That's what we're going to do in this particular workflow, but this isn't the only workflow possible. Okay, so if I go ahead and share now, and I'm going to share it with everyone. Notice in here, in this share zone, it's saying, oh, you've got editing enabled. Do you want to continue? Yes, I'm going to update sharing in here, and I'm going to say create a web app. Now, notice that this is a place, not the only place. Again, there are multiple pathways for some of these tools. You can go, for example, to storymaps.arcgis.com and create a story right there. You can also create a story map in here. As you can see, build a story map. You can also go to your content area in ArcGIS Online and go right to dashboards. Here, we're going to start with a map and go to a dashboard there. So notice that there's a nice tab here that says, oh, ArcGIS dashboards. Oh, that's great. And I don't want to call that a map. I want to call this one a dashboard. Okay, so we've gone from a survey to a map to a dashboard. Okay, super. And again, if you're really doing this in class, and as I have in the longer lesson that I mentioned, I'd pay more attention to all of these metadata tags, okay? You know that I'm just kind of giving you a short version here. Let's go ahead and see if that photo has been uploaded in my survey. Oh, it's still uploading, good grief. Okay, so let's go ahead and say, okay, here's my dashboard. And again, as the name implies, what you're going to do is you're going to create a one-screen view of your data, okay? So everything in the dashboard, this is one of the things I love about these tools, folks. Even though they're so powerful, they're actually pretty easy to use. And so indeed, we can even dig into a little bit of them, even with a lunchtime chat like this. Really pretty amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and create a pie chart, okay? And my walkability survey, okay, that's the one I'm going to create. Okay, so the pie chart, and I'm going to say grouped values, great. And then I'm going to pick, ooh, what about this? What do we have here? Pedestrian friendly or not? Okay, I don't have any data yet, right? Because it's still uploading my survey. But then I say, okay, I've got a placeholder for my future pie chart. And I also have the ability to put a gauge in there. How many people have filled out my survey at this point? Right now, I don't have any, but I can say done. And you can see where I'm going with this. These configurable panels allow you to drag and drop and so on. And let me show you, as I'm constructing this, that you can get pretty complicated and but still communicate well. Here's a dashboard by these folks in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And notice at the bottom, they actually have tabs where they're looking at different things in their community: blight, code violations, environmental, mowing, neighborhoods, etc. But this is all in a dashboard. There's multiple tabs, so there's really different ways to view different aspects of their community, but it's all set up with the dashboard, and it's all set up with the tools that we've talked about. Ditto for this one that we looked at the beginning of our session today. This is the dashboard also. Okay, so these dashboards, as you can see me configuring this thing with just starting to configure it here in our workshop, and I'm not going to finish it, but the idea is as I go along here, I'm going to be able to drag and drop things and zoom and change the base map and all that kind of stuff just in this plus sign, just in the plus sign. All right, super. So now, when we're done, it's actually going to look like this on this screen here. I'm going to have an image, and this is what you'll do in the lesson. You're going to add a couple of pie charts. You see the gauge in the lower center of that, and you're going to have a map legend, and you're going to actually have, in the actual lesson, I give you a few photos if you don't have any photos of your own, but you probably do have photos of your own for this walkability. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to create this dashboard, and you're going to save and share it. And then finally, you're going to create a story map, which we're going to go into here in the last few moments of our workshop today. So hopefully that's just to recap. We started with a survey, we created a map, then we created a dashboard, and now we're going to create a story map from that data that we have so far. Okay, now let's do that. Let's do that right now. I think many of you know about story maps, multimedia ways of communicating. A few months ago, our Story Maps team told us that there are 1.25 million story maps in existence right now, of varying quality to be sure, but of a wide variety of scales and themes. So we just encourage you to teach with story maps. There's lots of good content on the age of the Anthropocene, natural hazards, population change, and so much more. But also, as we're getting into today, create story maps and have your students create story maps as presentation tools, and you as an instructor can also use these as assessment tools, right? Whether your students are presenting to their peers and to you, they share the URL, you assess them based on some sort of rubric, for example, and they're developing communication skills as they go, and it's easy for you as an instructor to assess their work. Awesome. So use story maps as content, rich sets of content, but also create them. So how do we do that? Again, there's a couple ways to do it. You already saw me do a share inside ArcGIS Online, and that lets you create a story map. But another way to do it is just to go to plain old storymaps.arcgis.com. And if you do that, you'll be able to sign in again. And let me check, make sure that I'm on the same organization, right, that I used before. So I'm going to create a new story. I'm going to start from scratch. And remember how dashboards, everything is driven by the plus sign? It's just a beautiful thing. Let me have a moment. Everything is driven by the plus sign. Same thing with story maps. Everything is driven by, as you'll see here in a moment, this plus sign. So I'm going to go ahead and create my story map. And I'm going to say, well, my story title is How Walkable is Your Community? Great. And I don't need that little bit in there. Okay, great. a survey and map showing the degree of pedestrian friendliness. Okay, let's go ahead and paste that in. Okay, super. How about add an image? Hey, let's go ahead and maybe grab that Evergreen, Colorado walkable neighborhood. Okay, I'm going to add that. Now I've got a title and a photo. No big deal so far. Okay, well, that's pretty easy to do. But now, what about this? I'm going to tell my story. This is where the magic comes in. This is the beauty, the wonder, the glory of these tools. Plus sign, I'm going to go ahead and add some text. Okay, and I'm going to say, okay, the text I want to say is, what is walkability? Okay, it's the degree to which pedestrians, including those in wheelchairs, bicycles, scooters, etc., and any non-vehicle mode, feel safe and able to traverse their own community. So I'm going to go ahead and add that text in here right now. Great. And I've got some formatting I can do here and pretty it up, that sort of thing. Speaking of prettying it, aesthetically prettying things up, you know that I could probably change the font and the background and all that sort of thing. Yes, there are various templates in here that you can use to make your story exactly how you want it, okay, in terms of colors and fonts and so on and so forth. But the thing I really wanted to show, as we're kind of pressed for time here, but the power is as follows. If I want to add something, again, plus sign here, I'm going to add a map. Now, here is my walkability survey map. Okay, I want to add that in. Great. This is a map that I've already got in ArcGIS Online. Great. And I've got a few data points in there. I'm going to place that map inside my story map. Okay, now if I had more points than just this one right here, with this happens to be a photo that, okay, so there's my, not very walkable in this case, no sidewalk, etc. But I've got a map in there. Now, in the not too distant past, folks, you had to grab the embed code. It wasn't too ponderous, but you had to add the embed code and you had to do some tweaks. It's wonderful to be able to just add things. Let me add one more thing so you can see what I'm talking about here. And that is, let's go ahead and add a video, okay? I'm going to add a video, and the video, I'm going to grab the URL for that video, and the video happens to be about walkability, so it's going to help me tell my story. And so I'm going to add a link here, and I'm going to paste that URL along with, I'm going to subtract my text out of there, of course, because I don't want that. And let's just scoot a couple windows around. So, okay, great. Again, I don't have to even mess around with any sort of embed code. There's my walkability video, and as you can see right here, I'm on an on-ramp, and there's no sidewalk. Okay, so not too walkable at that point. So you see where I'm going with this, right, folks? In 2 minutes, I have the basics for a story map with links to other elements, including the map that I didn't have quite time to finish, but it was the idea. We were building that map, and if we had some points on there, it would show up in this map. And as the beauty of this is that as your survey is updated, your map updates, and your story map, of course, is pointing to that map, and so it updates also. Wow! So that was quite a tour. Hopefully, that again, I'll talk about where you can go for more. Now, I just want to, again, encourage you that you can combine these things in other ways that I've not talked about here in our lunchtime chat. So, for example, you can embed a survey in a story map. So these folks, you know, I'm heavily involved with GIS Day. So last year, or maybe it was the year before, the Port of Tacoma created this story map. And inside their Happy GIS Day story map, they actually have a survey inside the story map. So you can see here's their story map. It's got some tabs, and there is a quiz that is a Survey123. So here's port number 3. These are port people. You know, they love ports. I mean, what's not to love? But here's, okay, guess this port, okay? And they've got it inside the story map. So you can embed and combine these things in other creative ways. What I would just caution you about doing is the following. just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? That's kind of a mantra with all technology, including GIS. So you can embed a story map inside a story map, inside a story map, inside a dashboard. But think about the idea of all of these tools is really to communicate the problem or issue that you're trying to communicate. And so clarity is, I think, more important than just because you can, combine these things. So here's another one that I don't have time to show, but it's a survey inside of a dashboard. All right. Now, as a reminder, this entire lesson that this is just sort of the gluten-free, bite-sized version of it, but the more lengthy, step-by-step version of it is actually in here, as I mentioned earlier, inside the attachments that are attached to this blog post. And you get all of you get a zip file with the lesson in doc file format, so you can modify it if you want, and in a PDF format, okay? So that whole thing is in there. If you truly want more, then I do have, I did a similar, more lengthy presentation recently for the Society for Conservation GIS. And so I've got those video clips on this channel right here. So they're 30 minutes on story maps, 30 minutes on dashboard, 30. So you get a more lengthy, in-depth tour through that. But we just encourage you, keep learning. There are loads of wonderfully engaging teaching with GIS, field data collection resources on our training site. There's a very robust Survey123 set of help screens and pages and discussions on GeoNet. As you can see there, that fourth bullet there, that our product managers are very active in, as well as the user community. We have a MOOC, a massive open online course on do-it-yourself field apps, which I think is, or web apps, which I think really is germane to this whole discussion, because it really gets into developing web apps. Along which lines, this just came out actually the other day, this last one here, 4 apps. So our Esri Canada colleagues wrote this up. Story Maps, Web App Builder, Experience Builder, which some of you may have seen in the Esri User Conference plenary a couple weeks ago, and Dashboard. So when do you decide which one to use? To me, as we all grapple with as instructors, the most appropriate tool for the job, right? The most appropriate tool for the job. Some, functionality, for example, in Story Maps, pre-configured, easy to do. But if you want more, if story maps don't give you the kind of configuration you want, then you dig into Web App Builder or Experience Builder. So, and then finally, this Learn library of lessons. This is several hundred lessons in here now, folks. And all of these things that I'm talking about, if you want to dig even deeper, you can go into these nice, very easy to follow with screenshots, step-by-step lessons on exactly what I'm covering here. So that was what I intended to do. I hope it wasn't too fast. And again, if you want more, this wasn't intended for you to just, okay, now I totally understand how to do all this, Joseph. Great, I'm off and running. But at least gives you the sense of, what, within a half an hour, we did at least the shells for all of these things. Yeah, we could have tweaked the metadata and we could have made that survey a little bit more robust, but I get it. I build the survey, I build the map, I build the dashboard, and then we build a story map that kind of stitches them all together and tells the story. Now I look forward to hearing your comments and chats and reactions.
Thank you, Joseph. That's very interesting. I think you probably can share as well the walkability survey that you have. So maybe when people walking anywhere, they can submit as well, right?
Absolutely. Let's just do that. And I've got, yeah, it's right
and
here.
I'm gonna write submit one now, Joseph.
Oh, wonderful. And inside that story map, I didn't have time to do this in our session today, but see how I've got this big red click to submit point. That goes right to the survey. So inside the story map, I actually have a link to the survey. So all you need to tell people is go to the story map, and everything you need is inside there. You can submit a point, you can look at the point that you just submitted, and you can look at the dashboard, which actually reflects the data that you've just put in. Very cool. So yeah, look forward to seeing additional walkable points. But again, think about what you care about. It's the same, you could use the same workflow for, again, invasive species, water quality, weather, pedestrian counts at intersections, all sorts of things.
Awesome. So now is a question and answer session. Anybody want to unmute and talk directly with Joseph? Feel free to do so. There is some question in here that we chat, and then thank you for some of you that actually answering as well. One of the question was that can you actually add the chart from Excel, Joseph? So then there's an answer that if you put it as an image, you can, or also add it into the dashboard, then put the dashboard into the story map,
Yes.
right?
I'm
I don't know
scrolling
if you
back.
have other option. Yeah.
Yep. No, I'm right with you on that getting the chart in there. And there's another point that Shelley was bringing up about, hey, there's templates with the classic story maps. What about the new story maps? New being just FYI, the ones that rolled out in the summer of 2019, which is what I use today with everything driven by that plus sign. We're getting away from those templates. They're very powerful, but the challenge was that templates were developed at different times, and the state of IT computing at the time that the templates were developed, so they didn't always interact with each other, and you couldn't switch between templates halfway through. The idea now is with the new story maps is that you're going to have more and more functionality, all driven by that plus sign. So if you say, ooh, I want sort of a gallery feel, you're going to be able to add something that looks like the old gallery. You're going to be able to add something that looks like the old cascade. And you're starting to see that now as it's evolved over the last year. So the advantages are that you'll be able to go whatever pathway you want and sort of mix and match. You're sort of getting the Lego bricks for story maps, and you can construct them how you want.
Hey Joseph, there's a question from Jamie. If someone was to update the previously submitted point, what will be the best workflow for updating the attributes associated with that existing point?
Yeah, so one of the things that, again, just being pressed for time, I kind of breezed by, but some of you may have noticed inside, when I was in the My Content zone, inside ArcGIS Online, there is a place where you can go in there and say, what do you want your users to be able to do? There's also a place in Survey123 that allows you to do that. Do you want them just to add points, or do you want them to be able to edit points in there as well? So again, it depends on your purpose and your goals. For example, in some of you have taken our MOOCs, and we in the early MOOCs we had, including the ones from Penn State, we had, hey, where are you located? And with 30,000 people in there, there's probably going to be someone that's joking around saying, hey, I'm actually at the North Pole, and I can maybe move everybody into the Pacific Ocean. You don't really want to do that in that particular way. So for that particular purpose. So in that particular instance, we said you're only going to be able to add points, and you're not going to be able to edit. Once you submit your own, you're not going to be able to change it. So, but yes, you have the ability to specify what power your users are going to have. Very good question.
Hey Joseph, this is one last question. Then after that, I'm gonna cover some of the resources, especially the upcoming Brownback series. From Linda, my question relates to licensing. If I'm researching for a community and have community residents take the walkability survey in 1 to 3, and I report the data back to the community, does this violate any licensing requirements?
No licensing, but of course you're touching on a really good point, and that is, what do you share, right? Personally identifiable information, right? That's a huge topic for a whole conversation here. But in short, you're definitely not going to want to be publishing people's names, right? And anything associated with, for example, when we do workshops, for example, and we say, hey, where do you live? You don't have to put it right on where you actually live. And if you do, does it matter? So we have a discussion about location privacy. Do you put your point in the downtown of your city or not? So you're touching on some really important considerations when you're doing surveys, for sure, that we could have a further discussion on. But in terms of licensing, no, it's just that, yeah, what are you going to share? Do you want to have people's names on there? No, and so on. Yep.
Thank you, Joseph. Now, before we reach the end time in here, I just want to give the information for any of you that you're thinking what is the upcoming Brown Bag series. Again, this is always the first Tuesday of the month. In September, any of you have the question about story map, best practices in higher education, we bring all the experts. So we have a few experts from the product teams of story maps will come, and this is mostly only QA. So bring your questions and then they will be there to answer them. The other thing is October 6th, we're gonna invite Living Atlas team, how to use Living Atlas in the higher education, and also how to make the maybe best practices in creating a map like Living Atlas. And the November is ArcGIS Hub for data sharing. Again, we invite the product team to present the ArcGIS Hub. And December is business analyst. And don't forget that this Esri Brown Bag blog is where you can find resources and also recording link and all the information. So it's living blog that you can use. Okay? There's one other thing that I want to mention in here is this week is Esri Education Summit. Please attend. You're gonna meet a lot of other educators in here. So it's running from the actually starting tomorrow. So I'm gonna show you in here if the Education Summit in the agenda. Now tomorrow, any of you that want to learn more how to administering licenses, so tomorrow will be the pre-summit workshop, and we invite a lot of panelists that best practices in managing license remotely as well. So please do join us, and all the session will be recorded. So we're gonna invite Peter Noob from University of Michigan and many university. So everything about license tomorrow and access for the student is tomorrow. Then Thursday and Friday, higher ed will be in the morning always. And is this more panelists that we want educator talk to educators, right, Joseph? So please
and they'll all
register
be
for free.
recorded. Yep. But we still would love to have you live, even though they're all recorded, participating. Whatever your schedule allows, we'd love to have you there.
All right, with that, I'm gonna stop the recording. If you want to still lingering and ask questions to us, we are still here, right, Joseph?
Oh, absolutely. We love talking about this stuff, folks, and thanks for giving us your time today. I hope it was useful.